We'll get underway now, please. Welcome to the annual general meeting of Coast Capital Savings Credit Union. This is your meeting, ladies and gentlemen, and it is now called to order. My name is Bill Wellburn, and I am the board chair, and pursuant to our rules, I am the chair for this meeting. And we thank you for being here this afternoon. In a few moments, I'll review how you can participate in the meeting. Once again, this year we have members and guests join us via the internet on a live webcast. Welcome to those viewers. Those viewers will be able to submit questions via the webcast viewer throughout the meeting, and we'll include them when we get to the members' open forum at the conclusion of this meeting. Our rules require that all members be notified of a general meeting. Notice of this meeting was provided in November 2009 as part of the annual call for candidates for this year's directors' election. This was mailed to all members. Further details were provided in the Board of Directors update mailed to members last month. Coast Capital's rules require that a minimum of 50 members in good standing constitute a quorum at a general meeting. Based on preliminary registration information, I announce that we are in compliance with our minimum quorum requirement. Registration for the meeting is open until 5:15 to allow for any late arrivals. Once the registration closes, the registrar will provide me with the actual number of members registered for the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, this annual general meeting is duly constituted for the transaction of business. Now, does everyone have the yellow agenda package? It was available at the registration desk. If you just refer to it, I'll review it briefly. After we deal with required appointments for the meeting and the introductions, I'll present the Board of Directors report. This will be followed by the Chief Executive Officer's report. The meeting will receive the 2009 Auditor's Report and the 2009 Audited Financials, followed by the appointment of the external auditors for 2010. Under item number 12, Doug Stone, the chair of our nominations committee, will report on the director nominations and recruitment process and the results of this year's election. Closing remarks will follow, and the business meeting is scheduled to conclude at approximately 6 p.m., followed by members' open forum. May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your agenda package. Thank you. Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. The rules of order for the meeting are included with the agenda, and they set out how you can participate in the meeting. I'll just review some of the key points. At item number 17, it says that members must be recognized by the chair before speaking and must clearly state their name and branch affiliation. Number 18 says that only one member shall have the floor at any one time, and if two or more members wish to speak at the same time, the chair will determine the speaking order. Number 19, discussion on motions or resolutions is limited to 3 minutes per member, except the mover may speak a second time to close debate. And the reason for the time limitation is to permit all those who wish to speak an opportunity to do so. Number 20, the recording secretary will act as the timekeeper. Number 21, debate shall be relevant to the particular motion that is being discussed. And earlier on in the rules, number 5 talks about voting. Each member here tonight who is age 19 or over is entitled to 1 vote. And voting will be done by show of hands using the yellow registration packages or as otherwise determined by the chair. Are there any questions on the rules of order? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the rules, please? Seconder, please. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Moving to item number 5, I appoint Lisa Skaken, General Counsel at Coast, as parliamentarian for the meeting, and I appoint Linda Taylor, Board Secretary, our recording secretary for the meeting, and I'll introduce those individuals in a moment. I also appoint Jerry Delabatia as our returning officer for this evening. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here tonight. We want your participation at the meeting, and in order for this to happen most effectively, when the time comes, I'll ask participants to approach a microphone when you wish to speak. I'll then recognize you by referring to the microphone location. We have two here, labeled number 1, number 2. And I'll ask you to begin stating by stating your name and branch affiliation. I'd now like to introduce the head table and our guests. At the far end is Linda Taylor, our recording secretary. Next to Linda is Lisa Skaken, our parliamentarian. And to my immediate right is Tracy Redies, our president and CEO, whom I shall introduce more fully later. Now, we may have some guests in attendance tonight, and if we do, I will be advised and I will formally welcome them. We do have some guests. Thank you. We have Eldon Morris of the Cumis Group, Carlo DeMello of KPMG LLP, and Brady Jepson of Cumis as well. So thank you for coming out this evening. Item number 6 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of our last AGM held April the 29th, 2009. Those minutes are included in your general meeting AGM package. The board reviewed and approved the minutes of last year's AGM on July the 29th, 2009, pursuant to a resolution passed at a previous AGM saying that that's the board's responsibility. The minutes are now being presented to you for your information and to confirm that there's no errors or omissions. Ladies and gentlemen, is there any business arising out of those minutes? Hearing none, I will proceed to the report from the Board of Directors, item number 8. And if you have any questions on the board report or the reports that follow, please make note of them. We have a lot of interesting information coming your way this afternoon, and questions that come to mind may be answered as we proceed through the reports. Before we move to new business, there will be an opportunity for you to ask any questions you may have on any of the reports that have been given to you. So, ladies and gentlemen, the report from the board, I'm going to speak about a number of things, including introducing you to the board. I'm going to talk about Coast's growth since it came into being in 2000. I'm going to talk about our engagement with the community, some national recognition that we've received. I'm going to touch on federal credit union legislation that you've probably been reading about in the media. And then I will introduce our new, I call her new, but she's not too new anymore, our CEO. Ladies and gentlemen, our board. Interesting to note, Coast came into being December the 31st, 2000, and that is coming up 10 years now. Since Coast came into being on the merger of Richmond Savings here in Metro Vancouver and Pacific Coast Savings on the island, a total of 29 individuals have served on Coast board. And over the years, the board has downsized from as high as 18 down to its current 10. We have a rigorous nominations process in play, and this will be talked about more by the chair of the nominations committee when he provides his report. Just looking at the people on the screen, I'll just introduce them briefly. Dan Burns, it says 2000. Now, the significance of 2000 is, as I say, that's when Coast came into being. In fact, Dan was a director at the old Richmond Savings, and he started there in 1994. Next to Dan across the top is Bill Cook and Christian Finley. Bill was elected in 2007 and Christian last year. On the second row, Frank Harper, he's chair of our Audit and Finance Committee. Frank shows as a 2002 add to the Coast Board. In fact, Frank was a director at the old Surrey Metro and was elected there in 1995. Next to Frank is Mary Jordan, chair of our HR Committee, joined the board in 2008. And beside Mary is Karen Kesterlow, chair of our Risk Review Committee. Karen, it says 2000, so that's a key that you know that she joined or became part of Coast when the merger occurred. Karen actually is a former chair of Pacific Coast Savings and first was elected to the board in 1984. Across the lower bar is Gail Stevens, elected to the board in 2008. Doug Stone shows 2002. That's a flag that he came from Surrey Metro, and he was first elected to Surrey Metro's board in 1994. And Doug is chair of the nominations committee. And bottom right is Glenn Wong, elected to the board in 2007, and Glenn is chair of the conduct review committee. The bios for directors are included in your agenda package, and if you're watching online, that same information is available on the website. So, ladies and gentlemen, since 2000, as I mentioned, it's been 2 mergers and coming up 10 years of Coast Capital Savings. In 2001, just about 9 years ago to the date, a special general meeting, the first special general meeting of Coast Capital Savings was convened, and at that meeting, members approved the name Coast Capital Savings. And then, as I mentioned, in 2002, Surrey Metro members chose to merge with Coast. So if we look back over the past 10 years, and I've got 4 slides coming up that talk about a number of things that indicate to you the growth. So first is our total assets under administration, and you can see in 2000 when Coast was formed, there was $4.3 billion. And as you go up the line, you can see in 2001 it was flat, and that's because we were very busy with early merger activities. 2002, that was the year of Surrey Metro merging with Coast, and then from that point onward, it has gone up to the present amount of 12.9. So that represents a 3 times increase in Coast's size since its inception in 2000. Another one of our measures is net income. Again, you can see the line going up quite nicely, and I think we all know what happened in 2008, and Coast, like just about every other financial institution in the country, went down in 2008, and you can see in 2009 we're starting to track back up again. And it's really a testimony to the strength of the credit union system here in British Columbia that no credit unions failed, and indeed all credit unions are moving forward. The third slide on growth references our regulatory capital, and you can see how that has grown from $159 million in 2000 up to $593 million in 2009. And I mentioned that our assets under administration increased 3-fold. Our regulatory capital has increased 3.7-fold. So that is very good. Membership, another measure of growth. You can see in 2000 we started with 200,000 members, and that was flat through the first year. In 2002, Surrey Metro joined Coast. We went up to 280,000, and you can see the line of increase over the years. Interesting to note that if you just look at the past 5 years, Coast has grown by 85,000 members. In that same period, the BC system in its entirety has grown by 157,000 members. In other words, Coast represents well over half of the growth in the BC credit union system. And interesting, too, the average age in the BC credit union system has gone up each year, not at Coast. At Coast, the average age has come down. So if you're feeling young tonight, it's because of Coast. I'd now like to talk a bit about our engagement with community. One of our flagship programs is Cops for Cancer. This is a program that began on the island about 12 years ago, and it's a partnership of the Canadian Cancer Society and the municipal RCMP and military police forces across BC, along with Coast. We're involved in 3 rides. Tour de Rock is showing on the screen right now, and that's the one on the island. That particular tour has all those cyclists, mostly active police members, along with some media people, doing a ride that starts in Port Hardy, goes out to the west coast of Tofino, ends up in Victoria, and out to Sauk and Sydney. It's probably 1,000 kilometers or so. It's a very ambitious ride. Each rider sponsors a child who has experienced cancer. Since this program began at Coast, over $1 million has been raised. And what it does, this program, it engages law enforcement and Coast with dozens of communities and schools throughout a good portion of British Columbia. It creates awareness of childhood cancer and the growing successes in conquering childhood cancer, along with the unfortunate heartbreak of losing children to cancer. Coast employees play a very active role in fundraising, from head shaves to dunk tanks to various food events. We also have the Tour de Valley. Here, this particular tour, it starts up in Boston Bar through Hope, down the valley to all the way through Surrey and all the way to White Rock. Pictured on the screen there is, you can see one of Coast VPs, Ian McGuire. He's hosting the event. This is a barbecue lunch, proceeds donated to Cops for Cancer. The young girl in the picture is offering to shave off her ponytail to help make a wig for a cancer victim. The Tour de Coast. This particular tour, it starts on the Sunshine Coast. It goes through Vancouver to New Westminster and out to Maple Ridge. This school shows the Cops for Cancer at Burnaby North High School, and the students in the background are cheering for the Cops. This particular event, $2,500 was raised for the Cops for Cancer. This event takes place in the fall, so please make note of it when September rolls around. It gets good coverage in the media, and it's a great event. Another community outreach program that Coast sponsors is our Education Awards. And you can see this year 15 Standing Tall Awards, $5,000 each were given out to students, and 32 Citizenship Awards of $2,000 each. In 2009, we had 1,100 applications for these education awards, and that's a lot of work, and staff at Coast volunteer their time to adjudicate those applications and make the tough calls on the successful applicants. Over the past 5 years, some 292 students have received awards, and that totals close to $700,000. Another significant event this past year was our commitment to Kwantlen College here on the mainland. Our CEO talks about education as a great equalizer, and Coast believes in investing in education. This is our biggest investment to date. It's our support to continuing education. Kwantlen has 4 campus libraries, and they've been named in recognition of our support. But it's more than the money. This relationship that we have with Kwantlen, will allow for knowledge sharing and research, for talent recruitment by Coast, for continuing education of Coast employees at Kwantlen, and for co-op programs that Coast can participate in. Another area which I would like to bring to your attention is the national recognition that Coast has received. Once again, Coast was identified as one of the 50 best employers in Canada. This is the 3rd time that Coast has been included. There's 400 credit unions in Canada. 3 were included on this list of 50, Coast being one of them. The 50 Best Managed program, Coast, once again, and this is the 10th year, has been recognized as one of the 50 best managed companies in Canada, and Coast is now a double platinum award winner. And in 2009, Coast was recognized by the Canadian Marketing Association for its free checking account ad, the first free checking account from a full-service financial institution. I know our ads get attention. People like them. Some people don't like them, but they get attention, and that's what I'm told the nature of advertising is all about. Moving on, each year we've talked, over the past 4 or 5 years, we talked about the Case for Progress and our dream of being able to grow Coast from beyond British Columbia. This budget, federal budget, has brought down the legislation that could perhaps provide for that. We've been supporters of this federal credit union legislation for the past number of years. Once the legislation is passed and once we understand what it is, we will assess the benefits that it would bring to Coast and to our members, to our employees. And if it does seem to make sense, we will be consulting with you, our members, as to what we should do moving forward. I'd just like to make a few thank yous before I introduce Tracy. I'd like to thank our members for their loyal support, our employees, and there's over 1,800 of them, for all their energy and the hard work that they do in providing the services to our members. I'd like to thank Tracy and her team, and on a personal note, my board colleagues for their wisdom and dedication towards Coast. Now, our new CEO. And I joke about that because Tracy started June the 1st. She's 11 months into the job. She's probably done 5 years' work. And I'll touch on some of that in a moment. But at last year's AGM, the board had just days before made its decision on its next CEO. And it was announced at the AGM. Tracy's official date to commence employment at Coast was June the 1st, 2009. And that follows a 20-year work history with HSBC prior to joining Coast. And over that 20 years, Tracy held something like 14 different jobs or extended position with the bank. You know, I'm often asked, not so much now because people have gotten to know Tracy, but why did you hire a banker to run a credit union? Well, I guess, you know, that's a good question, and if you have spoken with Tracy, you get it right out of the gate. But if you don't know Tracy, the question stands. So we the board, determined what the requirements were for our next CEO. And it's a process that's not unlike the one that we use when we look at our upcoming board vacancies. We look at what the credit union needs, and we go out and we find people with those skills. Hiring a CEO is a significant step. At Coast, we recognize that we've grown to a large and complex financial institution. We're responsible for over $12 billion of other people's money. So the board wanted someone with deep experience in the financial services sector and expertise that was commensurate with the complexities of Coast. I should just speak briefly about Tracy's career with HSBC. There's an awful lot of things, so I'm just going to touch on some of the highlights, just so you get to know some sense of the expertise that she's brought to Coast. She started with the bank back in the late 1980s, and her first 7 years were here in Vancouver, where she learned the banking business. In 1995, she was transferred by the bank to Edmonton, and after 3 years, by now she's the Associate VP of Commercial Banking. She left Edmonton and came back to Vancouver. She was in Vancouver from 1998 to 2002. When she got back to Vancouver, she was Vice President of Personal Financial Services, and then when she completed her stint, this particular stint in Vancouver, she was a Senior Vice President of e-business. In 2002, the bank moved her to the U.S., and she had a number of positions in the U.S. She'd been there for 4 years. In 2002, when she went there, she was Senior Vice President of the Commercial e-Bank North America. And by 2006, she was President and CEO of HSBC.com and head of the Global E-Commerce Center of Excellence. At that time, she was responsible for a global information technology team of 700 people, and these people weren't working with her. Some of them were in New Jersey. Others were working here in Vancouver, some in Chicago, some in London, some in Hong Kong, and some in India. And I think that that's quite a feat to manage a group like that around the world. 2006 brought Tracy back to Vancouver. She was Executive Vice President of Personal Financial Services and Wealth Management and responsible for the bank's 140 branches from coast to coast. So when I speak to those people about why did you hire a banker, I talk about the expertise that Tracy brings to Coast, not only to Coast, but also to the BC Credit Union system. She's very active in bringing forward ideas on how we can make the system more effective. And it's interesting to note, Tracy, in her previous role for the bank, recognized here in Vancouver that Coast was a very innovative competitor to what was her bank. Used to be her bank. And you know, the other thing that appealed to me was, and to all of us on the board, was the regard that Tracy had for the work that Coast does in the community. She saw that as something that sets Coast apart from our competitors. To say that she's a highly engaging and unbelievably energetic person is an understatement. When she started at Coast on June the 1st, 2009, after taking a month off as she transitioned from where she came from to where she was going, she spent a lot of that time getting ready, and she had a full-blown transition plan ready to go on June the 1st. In her first very short period, she visited every branch of Coast. There's 50 branches from Chilliwack, West Vancouver, down to White Rock, and on the island from Sault, Sydney, up to Nanaimo, along with all of our admin offices on the island and on the mainland. One of the big accomplishments, well, there's been many, but one of the significant one is that Tracy and her team have articulated a purpose for Coast, and I think it just captures where Coast is going so well. Back prior to talking about purpose, we used to talk about vision, and you may recall our vision was yes, coast to coast. Well, we now talk about our purpose, and Tracy and her team brought forward a purpose. The board thought about it, talked about it, and decided that yes, this really does set out where we want to go with Coast. Tracy will talk about the purpose. I don't want to steal her thunder. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move now to Tracy's report, and agenda item number 9 is the report of the Chief Executive Officer. I'm pleased to introduce Tracy Redies.
Okay, thank you, Bill, and thank you very much for that very kind introduction. I have to say I'm very glad that he chose a banker to come and lead this credit union. I am extremely excited to be part of Coast Capital and honored to lead the credit union into the next era. Some of you may know that I hail from Surrey. I live out there with my husband and our 4 kids. And I have to tell you that I love the fact that I don't have to go under any tunnels, cross any bridges to get downtown anymore. It's kind of like that MasterCard commercial, you know, priceless. But all kidding aside, as Bill was saying, I had been watching Coast Capital when I was over at HSBC, and I was very intrigued by the innovative steps that the credit union was taking. So when the opportunity to become CEO of the credit union was offered to me, I was delighted to join. Coast has a very, very strong brand presence. It has excellent customer service, a huge commitment to community investment, as Bill talked about, and a promise to deliver innovative and value-based products to our members. In sum, I believe Coast has a very, very strong value proposition that we can leverage further for the benefit of our members and our employees going forward. One of the things that I've also seen since coming here is how much our members value our service. For every letter of concern I get, I typically receive 13 to 15 kudo letters from members who really love our service and appreciate what our employees do for them. And I can tell you that is really unusual in the financial services business. This feedback and dialogue is very important to us, and because the members are essentially the backbone of our organization, and we really want to continue to hear from you going forward in terms of how we can improve. So I really want to thank our members for coming here tonight and your ongoing support of our credit union. We really appreciate your business, your loyalty, your honesty, and also, again, telling us where we can continue to improve our service to you. And above all, I truly would like to say that I feel very privileged to be CEO of Coast Capital Savings Credit Union. It's a very, very fine institution. As the incoming CEO, there were a number of things that I had to do, and one of them was to replace several senior executives who were retiring. We also added the position of Chief Risk Officer to our senior executive team. I'm delighted to say that that we have been actually able to attract some very, very strong talent to the organization. Again, it's the sign of the strength of the brand and what Coast represents that we have been able to attract some very, very strong talent. But that talent, coupled with, again, very capable existing talent, has meant that we have, I think, a very capable senior executive team, a team that can help take the credit union forward into the future. And in the coming weeks, we'll also be adding a new Chief Operating Officer who, again, is a very talented individual. Our senior executive team, as I said, is very capable. They're also very hardworking, and we've had a lot to do over this first year of transition. So I would like to ask them to stand. They're wearing yellow carnations. Come on, guys, stand up. Make yourselves known. So you can get to know them, and they're going to be here at the end of the meeting to chat with you. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to approach them or myself after the session. Thanks, guys. Okay, so let's look at our key financial highlights from 2009. Despite the challenges of the interest rate and economic environment, Coast Capital Savings stayed on track and performed very satisfactorily, actually exceeding our budget expectations. Our pre-tax earnings before extraordinary items were $60.8 million in 2009, down about 15% from $72.3 million in 2008. Now, like most other financial institutions, the declining interest rate environment did affect us, and that was when the prime rate fell 150 basis points to 2.25%. Much of our loan book is in variable loans, so our loans reprice downwards immediately as the prime rate falls. But our deposits, much of which are in term instruments, take longer to reprice, and that's how the interest revenue declines in a declining interest rate market. But we also experienced some reduced income from reduced securitizations of our mortgage book, which lowered fee revenue activity from this activity. And we also experienced a one-time restructuring cost of about $3 million. Additionally, because of the credit environment, we did increase our loss provisioning for commercial loans. It was consistent with the overall market, but it was above our 2008 experience. The important thing to note here, however, is that when you back out the one-offs, the difference in the securitization and one-time restructuring charges, our income actually was very stable year over year. And most importantly, we continued to add customers throughout 2009, and as a result are very well positioned for the future. Our underlying business remains very strong and healthy. Now, notwithstanding the challenges I noted, our net income actually was higher in 2009 at $54.3 million versus $52.4 million in 2008. And that was because we recognized a one-time extraordinary gain from the Surrey Metro Savings non-voting shares. Net income expressed as a return on average assets was down slightly at 0.53% rather, compared to 0.55% in 2008, but still performed well in light of that interest rate environment. We were also pleased to see decent growth in assets, which increased by 6.5% to $11.1 billion by the year end, notwithstanding this more challenged economic environment. And as a result, our earnings, member equity increased by from $502 million to slightly over $543 million in 2009. And total assets under administration, which include our off-balance sheet assets such as mutual fund and securitized loans, increased by just under 5% to $12.9 billion. So Coast's financial position remains very healthy, with a total regulatory capital at year-end of 12.4% and a very healthy liquidity ratio of 26.4%. These are very, very healthy ratios and put us in good stead for the future. We did experience higher operating expenses associated with the restructuring costs that I mentioned. And as a result, we did have a slightly lower operating efficiency of 72.4% in 2009 versus 69.5% in 2008. That means that it cost us 72 cents to generate $1 in revenue. And I believe this is an area that we should continue to improve on, and we can improve in the future. Now, you can read more about our financial results in our 2009 annual report, which is available for you to take home tonight. At Coast, we're all about making banking simple, and that includes reading about it. That's why this year's annual report includes some helpful information, particularly for those who have never had to read an annual report before. I think it's laid out in a very straightforward manner. So our 2009 financial performance was buoyed by continued strong membership growth, as I said, led by our innovative and value-based products. In 2009, we also welcomed over 20,000 new members to Coast. So we now have, as Bill was mentioning, 425,000 members using our banking services through our 50-branch network and our contact center. We continue to gain momentum as one of Canada's fastest growing financial institutions. These numbers are very, very healthy, and I can tell you at my past job I would have loved to have seen this type of growth, particularly in the Lower Mainland and in Victoria. We are continuing to look for ways to improve our service to our members, and that includes ensuring we have an efficient distributed operation, which allows us to effectively deploy resources to specific areas of Coast Capital depending on customer demand. So having brought you free checking in 2005, we've continued to innovate, introducing 2 new products last year. The first one is the high-interest, no-fee savings account. While other Canadian financial institutions offer various types of high-interest savings accounts, these accounts either exclude popular features such as debit card purchases and in-branch transactions, or where these transactions are available, they charge you a fee. Our account gives customers full access to those transactions at no cost. The other new product is our low-fee, more-for-me mutual fund. With a low-fee structure, world-class investment management, and an investment minimum of only $1,000, the low-fee, more-for-me mutual fund is designed to appeal to consumers who are looking for conservatively managed investments, but also savings value. And I'm pleased to report that both products are performing very well and have been well received by our existing members and our new members. But I want to make it clear that we're not done. We're going to continue to listen to our members and develop new, innovative, value-based products to help them meet their financial needs in the future. Coast Capital's savings strategy and reputation as a conservative mortgage, personal, and business lender has helped keep us strong in the past. I'd now like to focus a little bit on our other business lines, our small business, insurance, commercial services, and equipment financing lines. While the economic climate in 2009 prevented any significant gains in these areas, we did experience some good growth and good performance. For example, last year, more than 5,800 new businesses sought the advice and expertise of our small business specialists. This is very, very good growth given the geographic area that we operate in. General revenue for insurance also grew modestly to about just under $22 million from $21 million in 2008. We did experience a decline in commercial loans. At the end of the year, our commercial loans totaled $2.3 billion. They were down from $2.5 billion at the end of 2008. And the reason for the decline in the commercial loans is primarily attributed to the slowdown in housing starts during the recession. What happens is real estate projects get completed because demand and housing starts are down. You don't necessarily have those replacement projects that basically offset the pay downs. So we did see some decline, and that's something that we're continuing to actually see a bit into 2010. Because it takes some time for the economy to recover and for those new projects to get started again. For equipment financing, declines in BC more than offset the growth outside of BC and resulted in slightly lower receivables of about $175 million, down from $186 million in the previous year. So again, these are satisfactory results. I think we can continue to improve on them, and I think the economy is we are starting to see signs of life, and I think we'll be able to continue to improve these numbers going forward. One of the things that we're very proud of is the fact that our member satisfaction continues to be very strong. Our innovative and value-based products bring new members through the door, but it's our great customer service that keeps our customers doing business with us. And in a recent survey of our online customer panel, we received a satisfaction rating of 82%. That means that 8 out of 10 customers are very happy with the service they receive from Coast. And it's a number to be proud of, but I think, again, we can continue to try and improve that in the future. Now, Bill mentioned we've got a new purpose. In the past, we've made it our mission to deliver simple financial help to our members by offering products and services that set us apart and also meet our members' financial needs. This year, we have launched a new purpose, though, and it's to change the way Canadians feel about banking forever. Now, why did we do this? I think because we feel our credit union should be committed to a purpose that is about serving our members and giving them an experience that is truly different from other financial institutions. And I believe in the 21st century, in order to differentiate Coast from other competitors, we will need to have a purpose that is meaningful to all of our stakeholders, from our employees to our customers to our suppliers. More importantly, we need a purpose that can be lived every day by our employees in every interaction they have with our members. Yes, from coast to coast was again a great aspirational goal, but it didn't really enable our employees on the front line to engage in it on a day-to-day basis. By changing to change the way Canadians feel about banking forever, our employees on the front line can think about this in their daily interactions with their customers and make sure that they're wowing their customers in every interaction, so that, again, we can change the way Canadians feel about banking. And we do believe that Canada needs a new kind of financial institution, one that is really focused on the customer and changing some of the stereotypes of banking out there. We want our members to feel like they're getting a different experience when they're dealing with us. We want that experience to be simple, we want it to be uncomplicated, and we want it, most of all, to be helpful. Our purpose is about having shared values, a compelling reason why our customers choose Coast rather than another financial institution, and why employees also want to work for Coast rather than another organization. And if we as an organization truly commit to positively changing the way our members feel about banking in their day-to-day transactions with us, then we feel we can change the way Canadians feel about banking forever. We really believe strongly in this purpose, and we believe it will serve us well in the coming years. And I hope you think so too. So as we thought about growth and how we want to go forward, we've also established some growth principles which really evolve around creating new value for our members, opportunities for our employees, and financial strength. Growth for growth's sake is not something that you should pursue, but we believe we should be getting better all the time, and when we get better, we will grow. The first item about creating value for our members is fundamentally important to us. Credit unions were founded on the principle of being member-owned, community-focused financial institutions. They were created to serve unmet needs in the financial services, and they have been innovation vanguards in the Canadian market as a result. It's an amazing history that the credit union industry has had in Canada, and I, for one, was, as I started to read that history and realized just how many things that the credit union had introduced, the credit union industry had introduced into Canada, I was amazed at the innovation. And I think there's opportunity for us to continue to do that for Canadians going forward. So any growth strategy that we consider as a credit union must make sure we take into account the positive benefits that it will bring to our members. So Bill mentioned last month the history was made actually with the federal government's introduction of legislation that will now make it possible for credit unions to operate nationally. I think as we speak it's being debated by the Finance Committee hearings, so we're waiting quite anxiously to see how this all goes. But most importantly, we do believe this is good news for our industry, as it provides an option for interested credit unions to expand to other provinces in the future. And more importantly, this is good news for Canadians, because it's going to create increased competition. And for once, there will be a true national alternative to the big Canadian banks. And for us, as we look at this for our members, it means potentially that our members won't have to leave us if they move to other provinces, or our small businesses won't have to leave us because they're operating in multiple provinces. So we do believe that there are options here that will be very beneficial for our members going forward. But if and when the legislation is passed, and that still remains to be seen, We are going to review it in detail, and as Bill said, assess whether or not it is beneficial to Coast Capital Savings and our members. And of course, any decision to expand beyond BC would only be made following that analysis and obviously a very detailed consultation process with you. So our pledge is to make sure that we keep you informed of these developments as they progress. Now, Bill mentioned that our community investment is really a remarkable story, and certainly for me, as Bill said, it was a key reason why I wanted to join the credit union movement. I think there are a lot of trends happening out there, a lot of social changes that it means that people are increasingly looking for their financial institutions to be better stewards of their communities, to be more responsible in giving back, and to really think about their stakeholders as opposed to just the bottom line. And I think Coast is a tremendous example of that. Our strong growth has allowed us to continue to give generously to our communities, and is a key part of our business. The dollar amount we continue to give in community sponsorships and investment is 7% of our budgeted pre-tax income. I can tell you this is really unusual in the financial services world. Typically, the large Canadian banks, give less than 1% of their pre-tax income. So the fact that we have continued to do this on an ongoing basis, I think, says a lot for the credit union, and it's also a key differentiator for us against some of the big financial institutions out there. In 2009, Coast Capital Savings contributed just under $4 million to the communities we serve, and you can read more about what we did. Bill highlighted a number of charities that we supported, but we have an online citizenship report that you're welcome to take a look at so you can see what we're doing. Now, looking to the 21st century, the financial services industry has withstood, obviously, some significant challenges in the past 2 years. And while times of change can be difficult, they can also bring great opportunities, and important opportunities that I believe Coast Capital will be able to take advantage of as a leading financial organization in the 21st century. I see tremendous prospects for our credit union, and I believe we can continue to realize many, many opportunities through our innovation and our value-based products and our great customer service. We have performed very well over the past 5 years. As we've talked about, we've launched many innovative, successful products. We've redesigned and renovated branches to have a new open concept. We've extended our branch hours to accommodate our members, and we've continued to build on our brand and strengthen our community support. And as a result of this, we've experienced extraordinary customer growth with almost 100,000 members added since 2004. And we continue to develop for the future. Earlier this month, we introduced our new mobile mortgage service, which we believe will better serve the needs of our borrowers at a place and time that is convenient with them. And this very much aligns to our promise to expand our delivery channels and serve customers on their terms. We want to increasingly bring our resources to the customer when it's convenient for the customer, not when it's convenient for us. We're also enhancing our mobile banking service. It's never been easier now to use your phone to stay on top of your financial affairs, and we will be introducing new transactional capabilities shortly. We're also investing heavily in new systems so that we can improve our sales and service processes for our customers. I do believe that this needs work. And this is going to be a large focus for us in 2010 so that we can deliver a new core banking system in the first part of 2011. And again, this is all about making business or your dealings easier with Coast. Moreover, we're going to continue to obviously to innovate and offer improved products to serve your needs. Later this year, we will be introducing a new and innovative mortgage product so that we can continue to provide value for our members. We have been very innovative on the deposit side. I think we can do some more on the credit side, and that's one of the reasons why we're looking at this new mortgage product. And this is only a start of what we're going to do in the coming years to continue to improve our service for our members. And to the benefit of our members and our employees and the communities that we serve. We are a very strong credit union. Today we have 50 branches, almost $13 billion in assets under administration, and 425,000 members. We are one of the fastest growing financial institutions in Canada. Make no mistake, we have a value proposition that is continuing to bring customers in the door every day. We are strong, and we believe we're very well positioned to continue to deliver on the How Can We Help You brand promise going forward. I have a great deal to be thankful for as I stand before you today. I'm very grateful to the Board of Directors, and particularly Chairman Bill Wellburn, for your support during my first year at Coast. And I'm also very thankful to my entire senior executive group, who have worked very long and hard with me over this transitional year. I'd also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our staff, who continue to do their best every day and really embody our brand, How Can We Help You, in everything they do. And to the members, I would like to thank you for your ongoing support of this great organization through what has been a very challenging economic period for us. You've helped us to continue to grow despite those challenges, and we're very grateful for your business. Going forward, I would welcome your feedback, and I do encourage you to contact me if you have any issues or concerns. It's very easy to get me via email, and I do answer my own emails. And I think with your help and input going forward, together we really will change the way Canadians feel about banking forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got the registration results. There's, as of 5:15, when we cut off registration, there was 95 members registered here tonight in attendance. We'll move on to item number 10 on the agenda, which is the receipt of the 2009 Auditor's Report and financial results. KPMG has provided their opinion that the consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of Coast Capital Savings Credit Union as at December 31st, 2009. Their report is set out on page 23 of the annual report. Ladies and gentlemen, our CEO has just provided you with a brief summary of highlights of this year's financial results. Within the annual report, you'll also find the management's discussion and analysis, called the MD&A, of the 2009 financials. This is kind of the plain English version that can explain things. As required by legislation, the Board of Directors has approved the financial statements on your behalf, and I would ask now if there are any questions on the financials. Hearing none, I declare the financial statements received. Moving to item number 11, appointment of auditors for 2010. It's your board's recommendation that the firm KPMG LLP be appointed auditors for 2010 and that their remuneration be fixed by the board. May I have a motion to appoint KPMG LLP as auditors for 2010? Thank you. Seconder? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please indicate. Contrary, if any. Motion's carried. Thank you. I'll now we'll move to item number 12, report of the Nominations Committee, and I'm going to ask Doug Stone, the chair of the Nominations Committee, to come forward and present his report. And after Doug is done, and before we go to members' resolution and new business, we will have questions on the reports. Doug, I was filling the air while you were walking up here. You're a TV guy, you should know that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening. On behalf of the Nominations Committee, I am pleased to report the results of the 2010 Directors' Election. This year, I chaired the Nominations Committee, which also included fellow directors Mary Jordan and Gail Stevens. I thank them very much for their hard work and contributions to the committee. I'd like to start by explaining the role of the Nominations Committee. It is our responsibility to complete a thorough evaluation of the current board and to identify additional skills, business experience, and qualifications to help Coast Capital Savings achieve its long-term strategic goals. A board of directors with the right balance of skills and experience is the key to effective governance at Coast Capital Savings. Together, the directors must have the required skills and experience to effectively carry out the board's oversight responsibilities on behalf of the credit union's 425,000 members, and work with senior management to provide input to and approve Coast Capital Savings' strategic plan and process. To ensure our directors are highly competent in meeting the responsibilities, a nominations committee is appointed annually to oversee the board of directors election process. This committee reports directly to you, our members, and is comprised of directors who are not currently eligible for re-election. The annual nomination process is an opportunity to strengthen the board and to initiate the renewal process. A director recruitment description is developed with the assistance from an independent governance consultant to outline the attributes we are looking for in candidates to help strengthen and add value to the board. This information is shared with all Coast Capital Savings members in a brochure that is mailed out in the fall and posted on our website. In addition to asking for nominations from the membership, the Nominations Committee and the Governance Consultant actively recruit qualified candidates who must also meet the director recruitment description. The practice of identifying the skill gaps on boards, profiling the needed attributes and expertise of directors, and recruiting and recommending candidates standing for election is being used more regularly in the credit union industry and in other organizations where governance and accountability are of the utmost importance. The Canadian Cooperative Association recognizes recruitment and recommendation of the best candidates possible as best practices in good corporate governance. As a result, Coast Capital Savings has developed a high-caliber board with individuals possessing the breadth and depth of industry and business knowledge essential to govern one of Canada's fastest-growing credit unions. From year to year, we expect the skills required to enhance the board of directors to vary in response to the changing needs of the credit union and the skills currently available on the board. Overall, we require directors to show high ethical standards, mature wisdom, and strong citizenship, along with a diversity of skills. For 2010, the committee's analysis determined that skills and expertise in the areas of technology, marketing, retailing, investment services, and governance leadership were beneficial in strengthening the board. Last November, nominations were accepted from candidates interested in the 2010 Board of Directors election and the 4 available positions. A mandatory information session was held in January to provide information on Coast Capital Savings and the credit union industry. Both the governance consultant and the nominations committee carefully reviewed the nominations received. After an extensive process involving interviews, analysis of past work experience, community contributions, and detailed reference checks, they recommended 4 highly qualified individuals. These candidates hold significant skills and expertise which align with the current year's needs. A candidate who offers excellent skills may not be recommended if his or her skills do not align with the current year's needs. This possibility was explained to all interested candidates and supported by those who attended the candidate information session. The 4 candidates recommended let their names stand, and the others who were not recommended chose not to run for election. As a result, we have an acclamation this year. The Nominations Committee declares Doug Brownridge and incumbents Bill Cook, Bill Wellburn, and Glenn Wong to be elected by acclamation to the Board of Directors for 3-year terms following the conclusion of tonight's annual general meeting. The 3 returning directors will bring stability and continuity to the board, in addition to their strong skills and leadership. The 4th director, Mr. Brownridge, provides board renewal and strengthens the board with proven skills and experience in the area of enhancing customer service through technology. His considerable background in technology and consumer organizations, complemented by his deep experience in developing innovative strategies, makes him well qualified to serve as a member of Coast Capital's board. Earlier tonight, you heard our CEO talk about our new purpose, to change the way Canadians feel about banking forever. To do so, we need to ensure that we have the right people, processes, and technology in place to do this. By adding technology experience to the Board of Directors, we are in an even stronger position to carry out our purpose. On behalf of the Nominations Committee, I provided a special update to members regarding the outcome of the 2010 Directors' election. This update was mailed to members in March and April and included on our website in addition to my report to members this evening. In closing, I thank the individuals who showed interest in serving on the Board of Coast Capital Savings and participated in this year's comprehensive nomination process. We are committed to ensuring that we have highly competent individuals serve on our board with leadership and governance skills that benefit all members of this credit union. I look forward to answering any questions or hearing any comments you might have pertaining to the director's election during the member open forum later in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Before we move to item number 13, members' resolutions and new business, are there any questions at this time on the board report, the CEO report, or the nominations committee report? Keeping in mind that at the conclusion of this meeting, we're going to have a members' open forum. Okay, we'll move on then to members' resolution and new business. To ensure members receive adequate notice of matters to be considered at an annual general meeting, Coast's rules state that in order for an ordinary resolution to be eligible for consideration, it must be submitted to the Board of Directors for review and consideration at least 90 days prior to the AGM, and the Board, at its discretion, shall determine whether the resolution shall be submitted to the members for consideration at the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, there were no resolutions received by the published deadline of January the 6th, 2010. So I'll call for any new business from the floor. We shall move on then to item 14, which is closing remarks. Once again, I would like to extend some thank yous. The meeting organizers, Elaine Dunn is around somewhere. She's the producer of this meeting, and she does a terrific job. It might look easy sitting there watching this meeting take place, but there's a lot of moving parts, and it's her good work and her team that make it all come to life. I'd like to thank the River Rock Casino Resort for their services, my board colleagues again. I'd like to recognize retiring director Frank Harper. Frank, as I mentioned earlier, had served on the board of Surrey Metro Savings, came through the merger in 2002, and is retiring from the board at the conclusion of this meeting. Frank has been a hardworking, dedicated, skillful director, and he will be missed. Once again, Tracy, I'd like to thank you and your team, our employees, and especially our members. We're coming to the conclusion of this part of the meeting. May I have a motion to conclude the formal part of the AGM? Thank you. A seconder, please. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Now, before we begin the members' forum, I'd like to make a few short announcements. If you're leaving now, directors and executive staff are not available to answer your questions. However, will be available to speak to any of you at the conclusion of the open forum. Directors are wearing red boutonnieres. Executives are wearing the yellow, so you know who you're speaking with. I'd ask that you recycle the information packages if you don't want to take them home at the stations provided in the lobby. So item number 15 is the members' open forum and discussion. We shall operate the forum the same way that, under the same rules of order that we approved for the meeting, and I'll alternate between questions here at the AGM and from any questions that come in on the webcast. So if anybody wishes to come forward to a microphone 1, microphone 2, please do so and identify yourself and your branch affiliation. Thank you. I recognize a woman at microphone number 2.
My name is this on?
Is the mic live? Microphone number 2?
My name is Denise North, and I'm from the Steveston branch. I would like to, hopefully, Tracy, as the new CEO, maybe I might get a bit more results. I was here when the meeting was last held in Richmond, which I believe was about 3 years ago, with the same issue. And I understand it has to do with closures on a Monday. I understand that you have since reopened the Cambie one, and I'm wondering if there's been any consideration on giving, which is pretty well a little under half of Richmond population that lives west of number 3 Road, who are left with nothing. At that time, there were 3 branches closed on a Monday for nearly half of Richmond, and that's according to City Hall. And we still do not have any services on a Monday. And I had experience of myself and 2 people. One of them had walked, one of them had got off a bus, and the ATM wasn't working. So, we were all left high and dry. If you go to Broadmoor, you get towed away if you're not parked in the right section of the parking lot. And unfortunately, the credit union faces on the wrong section, where you should park. And so I'm hoping that service for members means something, because the credit union started off as a slogan for members first. And things are really going down in Steveston. Now we have no parking. Some club has moved upstairs, and so we may be left with barely 2 parking spots. And if anyone on the board know anything about Steveston, the parking is at a premium anyways. And also, we're the only branch that does not have an enclosure for our ATM. And if you know Richmond, that part of Richmond is very windy, and we're left to the elements. And I don't think it's as safe as being inside for people. So I do hope there'll be some consideration to reopen at least one of the branches. For one thing, it's not environmentally friendly to go 2.5 miles to go to one of the others, the other branches, and I think it's just absolutely unheard of to leave half of Richmond with nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. North. So I understand your concern is Monday openings at certain branches in Richmond and parking availability at the Steveston branch, along with ATM enclosure. I'm going to ask our CEO to address your concerns, so she'll come forward and speak. Thank you.
Okay. First off, thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. Actually, right now we are in the process of evaluating all of our branch opening hours to see if they really do meet members' needs and are consistent with what our competitors are doing in those areas. So we are, it's very timely that you brought this up because we are looking at that. So I can assure you that we'll take a very, very close look at it. In terms of the parking, I've been out to Steveston Branch, and I do realize that there isn't a lot of parking there. I can't tell you that I have a solution for it right away, but I will take it back and look at talk to our facilities person to see if there's any alternatives or options that we have there. A lot of times it depends on the landlord and their parking space and whoever else is in that particular area. So sometimes our hands are a bit tied, but I can assure you we will look at it. I noticed you did say that the ATM was down that one particular time. We did go through a conversion. We were changing some systems with the ATM, and we did experience some downtime. So I do apologize that you had a bad experience on that front. But I think they are much more stabilized now. So hopefully we'll be able to, when we finish our analysis, some of the things that you've brought up we'll be able to resolve. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Microphone number 1, sir.
I just have one quick question. I just wonder, is this a legal requirement, or why do we carry a pile of 486 million in retained earnings, and what are we doing with it?
Sorry, your question is why do we have 486 million in retained earnings?
That's what it says in the financial statement.
Yes. Yeah, as a financial institution, we're required to maintain capital. Our regulator states a minimum amount of capital we're required to maintain, and the board establishes an amount beyond that as a safety margin. The way I look at retained earnings, it's like your own savings account. That's your cushion. Only, unlike an individual, our cushion is not optional; it's required. So,
well, my assumption that it is a legal requirement is correct.
Pardon me?
My assumption that it is a legal requirement is correct.
That is correct, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions? Microphone number 2, sir.
Hi. I'll give you a copy of my concerns after I'm done here. I just want to take my 3 minutes to list all of my concerns, and you can answer them after if you feel they warrant an answer. In reviewing the financial statements, one of the risks included in a few of the notes is that the credit union could be sued for financial advice our advisors have given our members. Is the cause of this potential risk the fact that we have not adequately explained the damage that a secular bear market could do to their life savings, or that we have not adequately explained the damage that deflation, deleveraging, and debt default could do to their investments? Next point. If the investment advice that we give to our clients is based on the premise that the worst of the financial crisis is behind us, why is the provincial government still guaranteeing 100% of all deposits? And why is the amount that we pay for deposit insurance increased from $2.5 million to $5 million in just the past 2 years? Is it possible that the credit union right now does not need deposits because we're not able to turn around and lend this money out, so that the bonus structure for employees is such that we herd members into mutual funds? This way the credit union at least earns a commission on these investments, whereas on the deposits, not only is the credit union not able to turn around and lend the money, but we also have to pay deposit insurance on top of that. How do members, and this goes back to retained earnings, how do members benefit from the excessive retained earnings? If capital is not needed for growth, and it seems like our deposits and our loans are pretty stagnant, and future mergers with other, I'm assuming with other credit unions, they will also bring in their own retained earnings. So we do not need excessive retained earnings. We had 12.4%. I believe that's more than adequate. And going forward, will we start to see, as we did in the past, significant patronage dividends paid back to the members / owners of the credit union? Next question. Or are we keeping these retained earning reserves for potential future loss that we haven't made note of in our financial statements, or we have not accrued for sufficiently? What percentage of our mortgages are stated income loans? And what percentage of these non-conventional mortgages are insured by someone other than CMHC, or where we have insured these loans ourselves and take the risk of any hit we take if real estate values do decline? How many of our past senior executive, current senior executive, and board members actually trust a Coast Capital financial advisor to manage the majority of their own life savings? Why do those who work for the credit union get better rates on loans and deposits than the rest of the 99% of the member/owners of the credit union? Do board members also get preferential deposit and loan rates? In 2009 and since 2002, how much have we paid out in patronage dividends and how much have we paid out in employee bonuses?
Time is up.
Thank you.
You know, I'd be delighted. Well, I wouldn't be delighted, but if you want to, if you want to communicate your concerns to the board, you will get an answer. But I just want to touch on a couple of thanks a lot. A couple of issues. You referenced the 100,000, the unlimited guarantee for deposits, and why, if the worst is over, has the province not gone back to the 100,000 guarantee? That would be a question I would direct to the province, and quite frankly, I'm not a supporter of a 100% guarantee. I think it does bring on a level of moral hazard that causes, not Coast, but potentially other credit unions to not pay close attention to their operations when they've got that 100% backstop. The 100,000 guarantee, I think, brings positive discipline to the marketplace. You referenced directing members to mutual funds versus deposits, and suggest that we are very liquid right now because of the economic climate. So are we directing members to mutual funds because it's a better return to the credit union? Answer is no. We do what we believe is in the best interest of the member when it comes to their money. The process is we get to know our client, our member. We're required to do that, and we make investment recommendations based on what the client's, customers, members' needs are. You talk about excessive retained earnings. As an accountant, I just don't get excessive retained earnings. That provides opportunity. It provides insurance against risk. You talk about whether there's undeclared losses. No, there's no undeclared losses. Any issues that we have concerns about have been fully provided for. You talk about, or asked about preferred rates. You noted that staff get preferred rates. That, as I think most people appreciate, is a standard offering at a financial institution. Whether you're a bank or a credit union, staff do get a preferred rate. Same as, I suppose, if you work at the Bay, you probably get a staff discount. You ask whether that same discount is extended to the board of directors. Answer is no. The board gets no preferred rates on deposits or on loans. And in referencing patronage dividends, a number of years ago, we did pay patronage dividends. As merger went forward, we went to our members and said, look, do you want to continue with patronage dividends where the average dividend was something like $20 per member, or do you want to pool that money together and use it for community support programs? I talked about the support programs earlier, and I'm absolutely positive that the community, our members live in the community, get a better deal by making those contributions to the community. So we'll respond to your questions, and we'll get it to you in the next couple of weeks. Any other questions for the board? Microphone 1 or microphone number 2? Microphone number 1.
Yeah, Gunter Bohm, Langley Branch. You reduced the daily withdrawal with a bank card to $400 a day. Now, I'm a snowbird, what you would call, and I'm traveling in different countries, and it's very hard to find in some place the ATM machine, and if I need some more, I have to come back the next day or something like this. Will you reduce the service charges accordingly?
Well, we don't charge service charges on our ATMs.
I'm talking about out of the country.
We can't control other financial institution service charges, but just to respond to your reduced limit, what I've learned over the past couple of years, well, I've known it for longer than this, is there's good guys and there's bad guys. The good guys are in this room. The bad guys are out there trying to steal your debit card information, and they're pretty good at it. And we've launched a number of tactics over this past year to try to reduce the losses that we're facing on debit card theft. As you know, if your debit card is compromised, we keep you whole, and the credit union bears the loss. So as this escalation in debit card theft has taken place over the past year, we've brought in a number of measures to try to make it more difficult for the bad guys to get your money, which becomes Coast Capital's money after it's gone out of your account without authority. So obviously one of those tactics is reducing the limits, and I could go into a greater length about how we've done it, but the bad guys are probably listening. So if you want to talk after the meeting, I can talk to you about it. Microphone number 2.
I just want to do a quick follow-up. In comparing the credit union to the banks, I think the big difference is the banks are for-profit and we are a cooperative. So you can say, yes, it's great to build retained earnings. In a bank, when a bank builds retained earnings, that is expressed in the value of their share prices going up in value. We do not have that. There's no share prices. Our big discount or our big benefit for dealing with the bank or with the credit union comes from that money being recycled back to the members.
Sure, I understand that. And in conjunction with that concern, back in the old days when we paid patronage dividends, it was based on a calculation that saw members being rebated some of the service charges they paid on their account. Well, we don't charge service charges on accounts anymore. It was a little lift on their deposit, their term deposit rates. We don't do haggle deposit rates anymore. We pay the same fair rate to all members, and it was a rebate on interest paid. We don't negotiate rates on mortgages anymore. We post our rates, and it's done fairly. So, sure, our retained earnings are growing, and they have to grow. As we look into the future, we see Coast continuing to grow. Retained earnings are required to support the business of Coast. A time may come when an opportunity presents itself. It might be an acquisition by Coast of another financial institution, for example. Nothing in the plans, but just as an example. To do that requires capital. So if we can build some capital, have it ready, available to execute some plan, not determined yet, then that puts us in good stead. Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that takes us to the end of the meeting. You've used your time. I'll speak to you later.
Okay.
I said that we would adjourn at 6, and we're now coming up to 6:30.
Public forum is still 6:30?
No.
Let me just ask one last question. Again, you don't have to answer it. I just want to get the question on record more than anything else. Public companies are required to publish the total compensation of their top 5 employees. Should this information not also be provided to the member owners of this cooperative so that we should know what our top 5 employees are paid in total compensation?
Our policy on executive compensation is that we don't publish it. However, in determining it, we have a compensation philosophy in place. We use external, and this is we the board, not management, we the board engage external consultants who give us the advice on levels of executive compensation that are appropriate for our executives. When we hired our executives, we haven't hired them and said, look, you're going to work for Coast and we're going to publish how much you're going to be paid. We haven't done that. So our policy is that we don't make that information public. Not to say that might not change down the way. Thank you. Microphone number 1.
Sandy Lindahl, Richmond Centre Branch. Just for the record, I was at the meeting when the vote came for the patronage rewards, and the members resoundingly said that they wanted to keep them. And we kept them for that following year. And then the next year, the board did some sort of end run around and changed it so that they were given to the community.
What we did, it wasn't an end run, it was a member survey. Rather than relying on or making a decision based on 100 or 200 people at a meeting. We did a broadcast survey of all members of Coast, and based on the results of what all members of Coast asked, we made a determination that we would end the patronage dividend and redeploy those funds first to build our retained earnings because they were lean at that time, and then secondly, on an incremental basis, to add those funds to our community support programs, and that's exactly what we've done. So, ladies and gentlemen, if there's no further questions, I shall adjourn the meeting, and we look forward to mixing with you afterwards. So thank you all very much for coming out tonight, and we wish you all the very best. Thank you.